And welcome into a very special edition of PressBox Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles of PressBox and PressBoxOnline.com. And with me, with his Terps background and the Terps colors, is Jim Smith, the Barry P. Gossett Director of Athletics for the University of Maryland. You know, in the old days, I would have just said the AD or Athletic Director, but I wanted to give you your deference by giving the name that spent some money with you.
Thanks, Stan. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for recognizing Barry. Barry's been a great supporter of the University of Maryland athletics. He's been great. I have mine here too.
Yep. I'm
Here we
glad to
are.
see you holding it up.
Yep.
The new
My-
issue of Press Box came out about 3 weeks ago. Don Marcus penned the article, and Don, of course, for the Baltimore Sun, covered the Maryland Terrapins for a long, long time. And I appreciate his work, and I hope you like the story.
the story was terrific, and it was nice to spend a couple of hours of game day with Don, and then some other time. So it was
Did you like our cover and our title, Mr. Smith Goes to College
my
Park?
my new best friend in Testudo. So
Uh,
it's a fantastic picture, and I really appreciate the story. It was very well done.
Hey, I just wanted to get into a couple things. And a lot of this is going to be about sports business a little bit, but then at the end, I do want to touch base on football and what's going on right now. But I did want to start when school president Daryl Pines interviewed you. What do you think he ended up being most attracted to you? You know, by
Maybe our passion for soccer. He's got a son who's a very good soccer player, and I've got quite a bit of soccer background. So I think we connected a little bit on that. But I think he saw that, I can bring a different perspective to Maryland with a lot of different experiences and hopefully translate that into some success here.
the position of athletic director seems to be evolving and changing right in front of our eyes, and it seems to all be about what someone can bring to their university in terms of fundraising and growing the alumni support that you get, and also sponsors. Is that how you see your job, which is a little bit different than I would have said 20 years ago that an athletic director did?
So I think, Stan, that's a good part of the job, but it's also, hey, what experiences that I can bring from all the professional stops that I've been at that can bring new revenue opportunities to the University of Maryland, or new tools that maybe aren't traditionally used in athletics, that can help create and generate more revenue for the department.
When I look at your background, so much is made of the fact that you were an out of the box hire by President Pines, with your background in pro sports and everything, but you do have some background in college sports. But what attracted you to the job at the University of Maryland? Because a lot of people think, despite its location and what it should be, that it doesn't quite live up to what it should be on the bigger parts of the program.
Well, I think that's a big part of the reason I came. I think I see a really big opportunity here. Where some people see them as challenges, I look at them as opportunities. So when you combine that with an incredible academic institution 8 miles from Washington, D.C., in a huge two metro market with 14 million people living within 100 miles of our football stadium, and see where the opportunity still is untapped from my perspective for Maryland football and Maryland basketball, both men's and women's, from a revenue standpoint. I just thought it was a really unique opportunity. And then they wrote a job description that looked far more like the president of a professional sports team than it did a traditional athletic director job. So that to me said they were really looking for a different candidate and someone to come in and take a different approach to how this department could be operated, and that made it really interesting.
You have so many successes in lacrosse, men's lacrosse, soccer, women's basketball, but the two biggest money makers are your football team and your men's basketball team. First of all, is that correct?
That is, they're the two largest revenue generators within the department.
Where do you think the Terps brand is right now with the public?
So I think it's so if you ask an alum, uh, so you look at it from two segments, right? The alumni segment, and then the kind of the fan segment. I think the alumni segment has incredible passion for their university, and they're really aspiring to be very successful. So I think they're anxiously awaiting that moment where we turn the corner and are a regular contender for the top of the Big Ten in all our sports. They're very, very proud of lacrosse, men's and women's lacrosse, men's soccer, our field hockey team. When you talk to people who are connected to Maryland, they're going to rattle off women's basketball, men's basketball. So I think there's a lot of passion here. I think they're just really hoping that we get football to the level that we all want it to be at.
Okay. Um, the university, I've watched it over the years, and in particularly with Pressbox, we notice it. Do you think that they view DC and Baltimore as equal parts of their territory, and that both are as important as the other in
I think
terms?
so. So in my limited time here, we talk a lot about the DMV, well, mostly from a recruiting standpoint, but also from a marketing perspective. And obviously, DC and Maryland are territory or areas that we really feel like we can own Saturdays in for college football, right? In both of those markets, really feel like we can own college basketball. We know we have a competitor in DC, but we're in a different conference that has a little bit more awareness nationally. So I think that we can definitely feel like we can compete and own as much of those two markets as possible.
One of the things that you did at Ohio State was you dealt with the alumni.
Mhm.
Where does Maryland stand in terms of alumni and that kind of support towards program?
Well,
Is it is
yeah,
it
no,
top 20,
I don't
top?
know if it would be hard to kind of gauge. I don't know that there's a metric out there for
Yeah.
that, but I can, it's a very large alumni base. They're very, and I think this is the context that I try to bring from being in different places. Lived in the South for 20 years. I have four children, all who went to four different universities, big universities, in three, oh, well, yeah, all four in the South. So I know that all alumni want their programs to be successful, all of them,
Yeah.
bar none. And so what we think might be apathy here in Maryland, people at Tennessee feel the same way, and people at Georgia or Georgia Tech or any of the other Big Ten schools, it's all very similar. If you went to the school and you had a really good experience, you've got probably some good passion for your programs here. And so I'd say Maryland is very similar to any other similar size school.
Can you grow the alumni base of the University of Maryland without winning first, or does the winning have to come first? I know it's the chicken or the egg, but how do you feel about that?
No, I'm a real believer that there's many factors into converting alumni or fans into people who attend events, and it does start with an experience.
Yeah.
And that experience starts from the time you get up in the morning to go to the game, all the way through the game, where you see a compelling game, and then you have to return home. And when those things all align, you get success. And if you notice, I didn't say it was winning. Winning
Yeah.
helps, but winning isn't the only answer to having a passionate, connected fan base. But it certainly helps.
I speaking just of men's basketball, because that's where I kind of fell in love with the University of Maryland when Lefty got there I was a freshman at the University of Maryland, or maybe the second year, but I was a freshman in 1969. I then transferred to UMBC. Maryland was too big for me at the time. But I always had a passion for Maryland's men's basketball through the early years of Mark Turgeon there. And I think I speak for a lot of the Maryland basketball fan base. And I don't sense that same passion that once existed. I thought it was coming back under Kevin, but I think the ending last year just really hit a lot of us like a torpedo. How do you think that that fan base is right now? Do you first of all, you're not from here, so you don't know that, but you remember how passionate Maryland was about its basketball.
Well, I think nationally, so again, this goes to perspective or context. I think nationally, everybody still sees Maryland as an incredibly strong basketball school. So that there may be a sense here locally that it's not that way. I don't know if that's right or wrong. If Georgetown's any indication, the Georgetown game, you're wrong. There's a lot of passion. The building was full. Will it be full tonight? No. I'm not sure anybody's buildings are full on some of these midweek games early in the year.
Yeah.
So I can't say that that's indicative to where Maryland is in the marketplace. I can understand the sense of maybe what happened at the end of last year and why people might be a little slow to come back. But we've got a new coach who had to go get 15 new players really fast. And we've got to give a little bit of time to build back in. I think when people see Buzz coach and his team play, it's going to remind you of teams that played for Gary.
Yeah.
And I think that will also reignite what that passion for basketball if it's lacking. I think it's there, and I'm excited to get to the Big Ten season to really see it play out.
Well, I know this had nothing to do with you, but the Mark Turgeon era, that's where I saw it kind of go south, and it was coming back with the Kevin Willard era. So I hope the Buzz is able to build off of that.
Yeah, and I understand that history is really important and context is really important, but we also have to look towards the future. And I look towards the future and I say, oh, you know what? It looks pretty good. I like this. I like these coaches. I like a lot of the players we have. I know what's in the pipeline. So I might tend to lean forward than backward. And maybe that's just me trying to be more positive than most people want to be.
All right. I want to, as I said at the end, in about 5, 7 minutes, I want to touch on the football program and what's going on a little bit with that. But I did want to ask you, you come into college athletics at a particularly unique time. I refer to it as kind of a difficult time with the transfer portal and the NIL money running rampant. What do you think of those changes to the game and the overall health of the landscape of college sports right now?
So if you're not interested in a challenge, now is not the time to get into college athletics because it's changing. Look, I say I don't personally love all the changes, but that's not for me to decide, right? Those changes have been made, and we have to now learn to work within the new framework and how to be successful in this new framework. And I think everybody is figuring it out. No one has figured it out. And I think that's one of the intriguing parts about being in college athletics now. If you're interested in just being an administrator and kind of overseeing a few things, I don't believe that's the job today. It was the job not too long ago, and I've said it in other interviews. 5 years ago, I'm probably not a candidate. I'm probably not interested in the job.
I understand
Now,
that.
I'm interested in the job because of the challenges that lie ahead, because I think I can lean on some pro sports experience, some salary cap experience, contract negotiations that are now all part of the dynamic that is college athletics.
One of the things when I read your job with the Atlanta Braves was, I think it was listed as Director of Business Strategy. Is that correct?
I oversaw the strategy group.
The strategy group. Okay. How much of what you're doing now is all about strategy right now?
It's a lot, right? And I think you have to. This doesn't excite fans when you start talking about a 3-year plan, because everybody wants to win tomorrow. But the reality is you got to try to put a plan together in this new world. So you can build and make sure, and not just build, but make sure you're building or maintaining those programs that have already been built at the highest level. It can't just happen naturally anymore. There's got to be a little intent that goes into it. There's got to be some resources that go behind it. And when you can combine intent and resources, I think you can have success. And I think that's what we're going to strive for here at Maryland.
What are some of the toughest challenges you face in this job?
Yeah, I think look, the NIL space is a real challenge. I think anybody in college athletics who says it's not is being, and I think they're being disingenuous. These are not easy things to do. It changes regularly, and the rules change regularly. You have people who are actually trying to do it the right way, and then you have plenty of people not doing it the right way, and it makes it very hard to be to be as competitive as you want to be when not everybody's playing by those rules.
I know these answers to his next two questions might be a little different a year from now, but in your early few months you've been there now, what has been the most pleasant surprise? I have a feeling it might have something to do with what I asked you that led you to say you're really happy with the passion of the fan base.
No, I think yes. So it is. It's the people here. I think not only is there. I think I heard a lot from others about apathy and there's too much competitiveness in the market. You have two football teams, all those things, and I don't think any of that's true. I think we have a very passionate fan base. I think we have to work hard to engage them, to encourage them to come out, and I think and then create a really great experience for when they're here. And then we need to win some too. So when you can combine all those things, I'm really pleasantly surprised to see it. On football Saturday, I'll tell you, at our last game against Indiana, I know the game didn't go any way like we wanted to, but the atmosphere before in the parking lots, that was real Big Ten football tailgating. It is happening on the Maryland campus. I did not expect to see that. And it is already happening. So I know it's capable here. And now we just have to continue to improve and have people believe in us and come back each week for football.
I was at the Orioles press conference the other day, and I know you know Katie Griggs pretty well on the business side of things, but David Rubenstein was there. I know that Darryl Pines would probably be more similar to the position that David has, and you'd be more like Mike Elias. But because of your business acumen, does Maryland have the overall financial clout to compete the way you envision that you'd want them to compete?
So, Stan, I look at, and I've said this a few times, I look at Maryland as if we were a stock, we'd be an outperform. We have outperformed the resources that we have, proving that it can be done. And I think so we can get into the debate on, hey, do we have the budget we need? Do we not? And of course, everybody would like to have more, but we have to just be really smart with what we have. And then we have to go generate some additional so we can be more competitive. Does that mean we're even with Ohio State? No, we're not even close. No. And so, if that's our aspiration, then we're going to have to make some serious investments in Maryland athletics, but I think we can be very, very competitive and not have to be Ohio State.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of room between you and Ohio State, but that doesn't mean you have to be. It's like David Rubenstein said, you don't have to spend with what the Dodgers spend. We can win at a more reasonable but bigger payroll than they have right now.
It's about spending really smart money, right? Yeah. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. And this is the new dynamic of college football. If you have an endless amount of money, you don't have to spend smart money, right? And then you end up with rosters that have an incredible amount of expense to them, and you don't make the playoffs, right? Okay, so let's spend smart money. Let's get to the playoffs. Let's be reasonable about how we're going to approach it. So I like David's approach. I think it's very prudent, and I think it'll turn out to be very successful for the Orioles.
Do you know David at all?
I have not met him, but I've heard great things about him.
Yeah, he's a pretty terrific guy. Hey, I'm appreciative of your time. I just did want to close talking about sort of the 8,000-pound elephant in the room, which is the football program. Big Ten football, it's different in basketball. You can kind of rebuild on the fly because it's only 12 to 14 players. Football's a tough animal in the Big Ten. Um, you've inherited all your coaches, and I know you personally like Mike Locksley. Um, how do you factor in his kind of inability in the 4 or 5 years he's really been the head man, 6 or 7 years, that he's been unable to get the needle moved fully? It's a tough decision you got making
Well,
at
I
the
know we
time.
made 3 bowl games in a row not too long ago.
Yep.
I don't know what the secret sauce was then. That's different now. Well, actually, I do know it wasn't an NIL era
Yeah.
where resources didn't play, and recruiting was still the single most important thing. And the adjustment needs to be made here. In Now as we go forward, now that we've got to evaluate our talent really well. And I think we've done that with our incoming freshmen that we have. You look at Malik Washington, he's a really good player. We've got some players on the defensive side of the ball. They're very good players. So we can put it together. I think what we have to do is just be mindful that we have to build depth over time. There's no simple answer. Everybody wants the magic wand to say, oh, magically change the coach and things are going to be different. I'm not sure I wholeheartedly agree with that. So I like a lot of the pieces that we have as we move forward. And I think we're going to, continue to play hard. I think that's the other thing that people just kind of dismiss. The scores haven't gone our way. Not diminishing that in any way, but the effort has been real. It's been real in every single game we've played. And I think that says a little bit about what's going on in that building.
Okay. And I imagine these last few games will play in your decision. Not I'm not talking about whether you're going to stick with Mike or not, but that's important to see that
We got to
continues.
continue to see where this team goes
Yeah.
and how it performs all the way through. So look, I'm looking forward to seeing Illinois is really good. A tough road game against Illinois. We're gonna learn more about our team and see where we're at.
Hey, one last question I have for you. You alluded to when I said something about the passion for the basketball hasn't been what it was a while ago. You said, "Hey, uh, you're wrong because of the Georgetown game and everything." Rivalries.
Mhm.
You know, Maryland had an incredible rivalry with Duke, and I know it was Mike Krzyzewski who got ticked off that Maryland left the ACC, and he said, "We'll never play Duke again." Well, he's not there anymore. Would you like to see a renewal of maybe like a Maryland Duke game in basketball and play Georgetown more often? And in football, I'm a big proponent of the Navy Maryland game being, I know it can't be a yearly game because Navy has so many commitments, big time commitments, and we now do in the Big Ten. But are you a big guy on rivalries?
Love rivalries. We're going to play Georgetown for the next 4 years. Took a little while to
Okay.
get that done, and I had got I want to say thanks to the folks who were here before me for getting that put together. So we want to look at all those rivalries and figure out how we can work them into our schedule. I think they're all worthy considerations and discussions. As you know, about football is the hardest because they schedule so far out.
Yeah.
So, I might schedule a game and I might be, not here when that game gets played. But I
Right.
do believe in the rivalries in how we can do that. It's really important.
I really think that Duke Maryland game would resonate with people, because we love to hate Duke. And I had the pleasure of living in Durham for about 3.5, 4 years and got to be around Mike. And I'm a huge fan of Krzyzewski.
Yeah.
So,
I'll be sure to bring it up with Buzz when we start talking about the schedule next time.
I'm sure he won't be worried about it. All right.
Okay.
Hey, I really appreciate your time today, Jim. And I'm glad you liked the article, and I appreciate your, participating in that.
Well, thanks for doing the article, Stan. Hope to see you out here at a basketball or a football
Oh, you
game here
will.
before the end of the year,
You
and
will.
appreciate Pressbox very much.
I just missed you the other night. I was behind you a few steps, and I said, I'll run into him in Baltimore in the game in Baltimore.
Ah,
All right.
great. Yeah.
Jim, thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
All
Take
right.
care.
All right, that does it for this edition of Press Box Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles. Our thanks to Jim Smith, the Bruce Gossett, the Barry Gossett, Director of Athletics at the University of Maryland. I'm thinking of Bruce Gossett. He was the kicker for the Rams about 50 years ago.
If
right.
Bruce wants to be a contributor, have him call me.
All right, I will.